ATCT, we are recorded this Zoom for you guys. And so it is, what is it, August 8th already? Yeah, I got to check my calendar here. August 8th, 2019. And, 7th, sorry. And I'm a day ahead of myself. And we just wanted to come to everybody and kind of pull back a little bit. Not that we don't have an amazing line of products here, but we have been on this wellness journey since the 2015. And when I started on my wellness journey, we actually only had just got our SlimRoast coffee. We only had 4 products. And now it's pretty amazing how many products we have. But I think sometimes we get like overwhelmed with what we should be doing. And so Laurie and I decided it was time to get back to the basics, and just for all the brand new members, especially us oldies here, we kind of know what the basics were and how we did really get our wellness journey looked after. But I'm going to throw the ball over to Laurie, and Laurie's just going to bring us back and just make you guys understand how powerful our products are, and especially our Optimum coffee, and how it can really help us. And so it's a great system we have. And so Laurie, I'm just going to let you take over here.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. I'm just going to see if I can pull up my PowerPoint presentation. It's been a while, so I wanted to just show some visuals, because if we all learn differently. We auditory, kinesthetic feeling, visual hearing. So if we can put some visuals in with the auditory and give you some ideas of why the Optimum coffee works so well, I think the visuals will help. So bear with me. And uh-oh. I left the meeting. Okay. Kathy, do you see that?
Yeah, we can see it. And then if you just push the slideshow,
yeah, I'm on my way.
Start from the beginning. Yeah, awesome.
Okay, right on. So we're going to talk about the benefits of crushing your cravings with the Optimum coffee, because this is where it all starts. And what I'd like to say is that if somebody is overweight, they're dealing with cravings that are causing them to eat foods that are not good for them. If somebody is a worrier or full of anxiety, they could possibly be needing some relief from that worry and anxiety. Along with crushing your cravings, when you nourish your dopamine reward centers like the Optimum coffee does, it helps as well. So I feel that no matter who the person is, starting with the Optimum coffee is a really good way to begin the healing process, because it helps to calm down your dopamine reward centers. So let's go into that and see how it works. So your dopamine pathways are in the brain and throughout the body, but we're going to look at the brain ones right now. And there's serotonin pathways and there's dopamine pathways. So the dopamine ones are responsible for the reward, the pleasure, the compulsion, the perseverance, where serotonin takes over more mood, memory, processing, sleep, cognition. So they both have their own purpose within the brain. The dopamine pathways are definitely responsible for cravings. So why does this work? It basically is a reward situation. It's a pleasure situation. And when we get worn out and tired and just worn out and tired, we tend to reach for foods to nourish that. And I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever been really tired, do you find that you're reaching for the heavy foods that don't work well for you at all, or reaching for a pop to give you a shot? So we use food as a reward for our dopamine reward centers, and it sets up a craving that the dopamine reward centers get used to, and then they basically push you to eat it again and eat it again. So nothing has changed in our brain since the caveman days. We haven't grown an extra limb, we haven't grown an extra organ. Everything exactly the same as the caveman days in the beginning of man. So why is it so different today from when back in the day when they hardly had any food and they had to go scavenging, and they would maybe kill an animal, you know, once a month or something, and they'd all eat off it. What is the difference? We eat too much. We all eat way too much food. It's really quite, it's fascinating how much we eat. And so we're constantly overloading our body and overloading our body. We're overloading our dopamine reward centers. We're overloading our liver. We're overloading our pancreas. We're overloading everything. And it really does come down to the fact that we eat too much. So there's two different types of hunger out there. There's the physical hunger, and then there's the emotional hunger. So the physical hunger comes on gradually, and it can be postponed. It can be satisfied with any type of food. You just got to get some sustenance in your body. Once you're full, you can stop eating. You actually have that satiety point, and it causes satisfaction, not guilt. Emotional hunger comes on suddenly and feels urgent. It causes specific cravings. It's always for fat-filled products, not sugar. It's fat. And eat more than you normally would. You feel uncomfortably full, and it leaves you feeling guilty and upset with yourself. So there's two types of hungers that we got here. And because we eat too much, we've completely annihilated our physical hunger signs. We don't even know what those are anymore, because we're always putting food in. And so the emotional hunger tends to overrule the physical hunger. And the coffee helps us deal with that. And we put on weight in different areas. So we've got different areas of, everybody's got their own body where they put on the weight. And it can be tied to an emotion. Everything's tied to emotions. It can be tied to a lot of things, but everybody's different. Visceral fat, though, is dangerous. There's no doubt about it. Visceral fat, when you eat too much food, your body has to deal with it. And if it's constantly coming in faster than it's going out, it starts to store it, and it just starts to stuff it in places wherever it can. And the visceral fat is what is underneath the abdominal muscle, not on the top. This is subcutaneous fat. This is where the biggest losers would lose all that weight, and then their skin is just hanging. We want to go after the visceral fat underneath that is wrapped around your internal organs, because that is not a good thing. So, you know, we can be happy overweight, but the body isn't happy. I mean, we can fool ourselves all we want, but when you are overweight, you stress out your body, no doubt. And you can see down below, there's all kinds of conditions that come from visceral fat, because visceral fat becomes its own organism, and it starts interfering with the hormonal signals and with the body, and it causes much disruption with the internal organs. So you don't want this going on. Or it's, you know, coronary heart disease, you know. I mean, if you've got a lot of fat on your belly, some of those men have really big, hard bellies. That is going to cause serious havoc on those organs that are sitting there underneath trying to deal with it. Let's look at it this way. This is your heart. This is a healthy heart on the left and an unhealthy heart on the right. The unhealthy heart is wrapped in visceral fat. So think for a minute, how is that heart going to pump your blood when it's got to deal with the weight of all that visceral fat on it? It's just not a good situation. And your heart is a very important part of the blood process that keeps us going. And if you're getting fatigued and just, you know, can't deal, when you have excess fat in your body, especially the visceral fat, your heart is having a really hard time keeping up. So it's important to get this fat off. We are much happier and healthier when we don't have excess visceral fat on our body. So let's talk about the dopamine reward centers. In a normal person, the brain lights up with dopamine reward centers where the red is. So a normal person has active dopamine reward centers going on. Now, what happens is if you continually eat and eat and eat, or cigarettes or alcohol or cocaine or whatever it is that you're using as a stimulant for your body, the dopamine reward centers get overactivated and they start shutting down because they can't deal with what's going on. So literally your dopamine reward centers start to shut down. And that's why somebody who's a cocaine addict continues to look for that fix. They just never get the same fix that they did the first time, because their dopamine reward centers are starting to protect themselves and shut down now, and it's taking more and more. That's why people drink more. It's why they eat more, because it's shutting down. So you look at the brain of an obese person, they've shut down almost all of their dopamine reward centers. So they don't get satisfied when they eat like they used to eat. Now they're eating more and more and more to look for that feel-good pleasure reward that they would get when they fed their dopamine reward centers. So look at this one as well. Here's a smoker at the top. They have, here's a non-smoker at the bottom. So their brain is lit up quite nicely. They've got a really good dopamine reward center patch happening there. And a smoker, their dopamine reward centers are literally starting to shrink and shut down. A normal person who doesn't drink versus an alcoholic. A normal person who doesn't overeat versus an obese person. A normal person who doesn't do cocaine versus a cocaine user. So you can see from these brain scans that it's well documented that dopamine reward centers begin to shut down when they are hit hard constantly. And cocaine addicts are really bad. It takes away all the pleasure in their lives whatsoever. And all they want to do is more cocaine and more cocaine. That's where you get the meth addicts and people like that are using those kinds of drugs that can't seem to stop. They're looking for that pleasure hit with their dopamine reward centers, and they're not getting it. Here's depression and no depression. Same thing. With no depression, you've got more dopamine reward centers firing. With depression, they're shutting down. So this is what starts the cravings. It starts the brain not being able to call the right signals out to the body, and it messes up your whole system. So dopamine reward centers can be found, most of them are in the brain, but they're also down the GI tract and the spinal cord and the stomach. So there's more of them throughout the body. The most of them are situated in the brain. So we want to be able to nourish those dopamine reward centers in a way that doesn't cause them stress or doesn't cause them to shut down. So I'll just leave it on here for a minute. So what the Optimum coffee does then is that it uses a stack of nootropics. And nootropics is just a word that describes a stack of supplements that are put together to enhance each other. One on its own might not be really effective, but you combine it with another one, and now it's empowered both of them. So Kevin Thomas has gone and put together a nootropic stack of supplemental, all-natural ingredients in our Optimum coffee that nourishes your dopamine reward centers. That means that it goes in and gives the dopamine reward centers what it needs to be satisfied, and it crushes your cravings. It gives the dopamine reward centers what it needs to feel good. There's pleasure there, so your dopamine reward centers are working properly. It goes in and it helps people feel better. Like that coffee is powerful, powerful stuff, because it's literally helping to, how I like to say, give that person a leg up to now start to take control of their own wellness. It gives them a leg up to begin their wellness path. And I think that's the key. I mean, you can take all kinds of supplements and bypass your dopamine reward centers, and you think they're doing something, but why not start with the brain and the gut and help it calm down? And that's why I say somebody who's a worrier, full of anxiety, that stresses out the body as well. So it'll calm them down too. So it really, the whole idea behind the cup of coffee is that it's calming down the dopamine reward centers in the brain and the gut and helping that person gain back control, so that it's not their brain yammering away at them anymore. It's their body that can send the signals of hunger. The brain is sending the signals of emotional hunger. The body is sending signals of physical hunger. And the brain takes over and the body is just ignored. So what it does is it turns down that voice inside your head that's yammering away. It's your voice. And it's not necessarily your friend, as in, you know, you should just eat that last piece of pizza. But I've already had 3 pieces. Well, what's one more? You know, that voice, that's the voice that takes people out. They succumb to it every time, and the physical body has to deal with the 4 pieces of pizza now. So that voice calms down and turns down the volume on that voice inside your head. And then it allows you to start listening to your body and start beginning to understand the physical signs of hunger again. You don't just eat for no reason. You actually go in and say to your body, do you need something right now? Not down a bag of chips and then, you know, back into the kitchen for more. So the coffee literally gives you the control to start the whole wellness process. So to me, the optimum coffee is the key here. I wouldn't start anybody off on anything that didn't start with the optimum coffee, because that is the key to help people calm their emotional brain down and give the dopamine reward centers a chance to recover from the constant stimulation, give the liver a chance to recover from the constant barrage of food, and the whole body starts to feel better. And I don't believe that it's not necessarily, it's not easy to start that whole process when you're not feeling good. But if you can start to feel a little bit better, then you start doing a little bit more. We're finding that people are all of a sudden they're going to the gym and exercising. They never did that before. Or they're going for walks because they're starting to feel better. And it all comes down to feeling better first. The other part of this coffee that is just, I think is just a wonderful thing, is the fact that it has this VASO6 patented ingredient in it. And that ingredient helps the blood to flow better. So let's just look at the blood for a minute. Life is in the blood. The heart is the pump. The lungs provide the oxygen, and they bring the oxygen into the blood. The red blood cells carry nutrients and oxygen to the trillions of cells in your body. So the blood is feeding you from the inside. And it also, so the arteries and the capillaries take the nutrition and oxygen out, and then it's a one-way system. On the way back, it picks up dead cells and waste to get rid of it for elimination. So this is a one-way powerful system. The heart is keeping it going. The lungs are supplying the oxygen. Your digestive system is supplying the nutrition, and the red blood cells are carrying it out to the trillions of cells that make up your body. If you don't have good blood flow, you are literally starving to death inside. Okay? So here's what the VASO6 does. The VASO6 encourages the blood vessel to make a natural molecule called nitric oxide. So when you drink the coffee, it encourages the blood vessels to make more nitric oxide. The nitric oxide softens up the walls of the blood vessels. And that allows the blood vessels to spread further and more blood to pump through. Now, you might think, well, what does this matter, right? Well, if you're getting brittle inside, as in, look down here, a diseased artery, you've got all of this plaque starting to build up inside of your blood vessel. That's plaque. That's going to make your blood vessel brittle, and it's going to choke off good blood supply, all right? This happens when you have a high-fat diet. This would be what somebody's doing when they're on a keto diet to themselves. They don't even know it yet, but they're eating a high-fat, high-protein, which is pure fat. All meat, dairy, and eggs is fat. So you're high-fat, low-carb. There's no nutrition going in from fruits and vegetables. You're literally causing plaque to build up throughout your whole blood system. You're overburdening the liver. Your blood is literally full of fat now, because the liver can't keep the blood clean. That's one of its jobs, is to filter out the blood so that it's clean when it goes up to the heart. So you are clogging your body up so badly by eating fat that it causes disease. There's no way around it. So here's a normal artery, and you look at that, and then you start getting pieces of plaque break off from the inside of the wall, and it causes blood clots and all kinds of, if your blood isn't carrying the waste out well, the waste starts to build up and cause blockages. So you want to basically have a relaxed blood vessel. So the nitric oxide in the Optimum coffee causes your blood vessel walls to soften up and allow more blood to pass through. And that is a phenomenal thing. And what do they use? I think it's green bean extract is the ingredient that does that. So what causes nitric oxide deficiencies? Well, everything that we do: aging, inactivity, smoking, high cholesterol, fatty diets, and lack of healthy foods, which is basically the North American diet. The benefits of getting more nitric oxide happening in the cells and more blood flowing through your blood vessels is increased energy, increased vitality, and increased overall wellness. So the nitric oxide factor in this coffee is helping people feel better. It's helping them have more energy, and life looks better. So then they have the power to make better choices. So this coffee is a very, very powerful part of the whole wellness program as far as I'm concerned. Now, we talked about sticky blood, and the Max is the product that we use for sticky blood. So look over to on the right side. This is oxygenated blood cells. These blood cells are free flowing. You can see that they have lots of surface available because the oxygen and the nutrients attach to the surface. And as they flow through the blood, they deliver the oxygen and nutrition to the cells. On the left-hand side, before Max, you see what happens when the blood is sticky. The blood is sticky with fat, with toxins, with the daily life, and the blood cells start stacking up like a roll of coins. Now you can see that there's hardly any surface available for nutrition and oxygen to attach to. And the blood is flowing so slowly because of this. You're literally starving to death inside. So your cells aren't getting the nutrition and oxygen they need to reproduce. That's what cells do. Their job is to reproduce. So if you have a cell that's starving and it's in a bad shape, when it reproduces in that shape. And that begins the buildup of disease in the body, right? So you really want to keep your blood flowing well. What causes sticky blood? It's pretty much the same list as what causes lack of nitric oxide: smoking, excess caffeine, alcohol, stress, toxins, and the modern day diet, right? So basically our modern day lifestyle is causing sticky blood, which also causes a deficiency of nitric oxide. So together, our lifestyle and basically is definitely hard on us. And we've been brainwashed for decades on the fact that protein is good for us. In 1933, they cut a deal in a back room. There was the pharmaceutical companies, the food processing, because it was just starting to ramp up into being more of processed foods, and the governments cut a deal that they were going to definitely go after the human's brain and instill in them that protein is the number one thing that you need to survive. And that is the farthest thing from the truth. What you need is critical clean carbohydrates. We're talking fruits and vegetables. That's what we need. So since 1933, so think about it. What they did was they published a whole bunch of posters and coloring books and educational material and sent them into the kindergarten and elementary schools. And so began the brainwashing of us thinking protein is good for us. So you think about it. If protein is so good for us and we consume it now more than ever, why is the human population so sick? If it's good for us, why are we so sick? I think that speaks for itself. Protein is not necessary. Now, protein from spinach, from a sweet potato, from there's lots of fruits and broccoli, leafy greens. There's lots of fruits and vegetables that have minute parts of protein in them, and they are very bioavailable to our body. So when we eat that protein, it immediately goes to work. But you eat meat, dairy, eggs, and bread, gluten, all of that stuff. It's not good for the body. It gums us up because it's saturated fat first. And down the road, it's a somewhat kind of form of protein. So we're going up against a whole decades of brainwashing from us thinking that we need to eat meat at every meal. And it's just not necessary. Eggs are bad for us. They're made to make a chicken. They're not made to feed the human body. Cheese is you think about how coagulated it is on the outside of our body. It's no different when you eat it. It's that coagulated inside. And now you've put your whole digestive system on alert to try to digest that and break it down. What is it going to do with it? starts lining your blood vessels. Your blood is full of fat. So we have to really look at our fat content. What happens when you get so much fat in the blood, and it distributes, the blood distributes like sugars. Blood sugar is a factor. You measure your blood sugar. When the sugar goes out to the cells, the fat blocks the cell's ability to absorb the sugar. But the whole protein industry wants you to believe that sugar is the enemy. And yes, sugar is the enemy. If you're talking processed sugar, high fructose corn syrup, terrible stuff, you know, there is sugars out there that are bad. But what got lumped into that was fruits and vegetables. And that's not cool, because fruits are so amazingly important to our body. So what's happening is people are eating high fat, high protein / fat, and hardly eating any carbohydrates. And that is causing serious disease in the body. And that's how we're eating today. So, I mean, I don't have to say any more than look around you and see how many people are overweight, obese, and sick. It's because we're eating too much protein, which is really hard to wrap your head around when you've believed that for so many years. So, Max Spray. This is a duo. Optimum Coffee and the Max Spray are a duo. You drink the coffee, the Vaso 6 starts the blood flowing better. You use the Max, and it pushes in 10 essential minerals into our body, which are starting to be very much depleted in our food source, because basically you don't get any essential minerals out of fat. You know, high protein fat, meat, dairy, and eggs is not giving you any real source of critical clean carbohydrates, which is the sugar that we need in our body. So it puts all these minerals in the body, and then when you're spraying it under your tongue, it creates what's called an osmotic pressure. It goes in and it pushes the red blood cells apart. So the more you use it, the more your blood cells are free flowing. The more your blood cells are free flowing, the more nutrition and oxygen is being carried to your cells, and the more waste is being picked up and cleaned out of your body along the way. So this, to me, is this is a no-brainer product. And when you pair it up with the Optimum Coffee, now you've got your blood starting to get back on the track of wellness and health. I just made up a new word. And that's going to, it's going to supercharge your healing journey. Because if your blood is flowing well and you're feeding yourself well from the inside out, you feel so much better. You look better. You shine. You have a brightness about you. Your skin looks good. Everybody shines. And then people are going to say, what are you doing? So, Optimum Coffee facts. There's no coffee grown in Italy. It's a roasting machine. I didn't know that. I thought it was a coffee from Italy, but it's actually a certain processing, aerated design that constantly recirculates the beans. The manufacturer of Optimum Coffee takes this seriously, and they use a really nice flavored coffee. I don't find it too bitter. It's not super strong, so even non-coffee drinkers are getting over it and starting to enjoy the benefits that they're getting. They don't burn out the fats and oils and tannins, and that makes the coffee rich in flavor. And it's a coffee extract. So basically, the coffee, the caffeine that's put into the formula for the Optimum Coffee, it's just the delivery system. It contains 100 milligrams of caffeine. A normal cup of coffee is 190 to 200. So it's like half the caffeine of a cup of coffee. And it's just the delivery system to get the other all-natural nootropic stack of supplements into your body. Now, caffeine itself is definitely used in the supplement world for a stimulant. So we do have caffeine in there. It's also paired with L-theanine. And and this is the whole nootropic stacking thing. They put in caffeine and they stack it with L-theanine. And what happens then is the L-theanine calms down the action of the caffeine. So if coffee makes somebody jittery, that will help bring it down. So people who find that just a normal cup of coffee makes them jittery should not find this does that. Or if the first couple of cups, by the end of the week, they shouldn't notice any difference, because there's half the caffeine content, and we do have L-theanine in there to help the caffeine stimulation. So it's a robust, aromatic, and super performing coffee, and we need to to me, this is just a no-brainer for where to start people at. 2.25 billion cups of coffee are drank every day globally, and that's why they're using coffee as the delivery system. We do have Optimum Cocoa as well for people who really don't like coffee, and that is the exact same blend, same stack of nootropic supplements with a cocoa as the delivery system instead of coffee. So these two products together, the Optimum Coffee and the Max Spray, are working together to supercharge your blood inside your body. It's not something you would normally feel. Like you wouldn't just all of a sudden notice, oh, gee, I think my blood's flowing better. But you'll notice it from how more efficiently your body's working, how less brain fog you have, how your skin is glowing, because everything is being fed well. If you look at somebody who's obese and diseased, they're getting grayer and grayer. The life force, their pilot light is going out, because they just don't have the food, the nutrition, and the oxygen going into the cells to help the body function well. So it's quite obvious to me when somebody eats well, you can see that they have a glow about them. What else do I have? Oh, well, here's Steve Dibbins. Look at this guy. He's in his 50s, I think. He entered a bodybuilding competition for over 50, and he won it. But I want to show you this, because this is a man who owns a gym and works out every day like a fiend and eats well as far as he thinks. He still has fitness going on there. So you cannot exercise the weight off. You can't. You need to empower your body from the inside out to be able to get that moving. So he's exercising, and he's still, got that little bit of chub around his waist, where he started on the Optimum and the Max, and look at it, he's cut. He's just cut. So this is an indication of how exercise is not, exercise is wonderful, don't get me wrong, but it isn't the answer when you're starving inside. It isn't the answer when your blood isn't flowing well. And when your blood isn't flowing well and you're not feeling well, you don't want to exercise. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? When you're not feeling well, the last thing you want to do is go for a walk around the block, let alone go to the gym. So by empowering people inside, this works very well. So yeah, look at, that defined his body quite nicely. So these products are quite capable of giving you a healthy, defined body. Yes, so those are the ingredients that are in the Valentis Optimum coffee, and I researched every one of them. They're all natural. There are synthetics with the same similar names out there. They run into some. A few people have looked up the ingredients and said, well, that's a chemical, and it's not. It's all natural ingredients. I find it interesting when the FDA and Health Canada will go after one of these ingredients trying to say it's not good for us, and yet they pass glyphosate through, they pass all kinds of chemicals through, they allow all kinds of crap out there to poison us, and then they want to tell us that we're not going to allow an ingredient that is actually working for us. So I don't really feel that following the FDA or the Health Canada's rules are in my best interest, because the government always has an agenda, and they're taking paybacks from the companies that want to promote protein, for instance. Okay, the government subsidize the meat, dairy, and egg industry. Nobody's subsidizing the broccoli industry. So why are they getting all these subsidies, right? They are in cahoots, and we do not need this much protein. If you're going to eat meat, you can eat a small portion later in your evening meal, but you don't want to eat meat or any fats before lunch. So if you can keep it clean before lunch, just fruits, smoothies. You don't need to put that scoop of protein in your smoothie. It's a waste of money, and it's not necessary. So it's easy to eat clean when you take out the saturated fats from meat, dairy, and eggs, you guys. So yeah, there is, I'll stop the share here. How's that? It's been a while since I went through all of that, and
a great reminder, Laura. Like we do this Optimum coffee and the Max are two powerful products. So for all that are on, thanks you guys for joining today, and for everybody that's listening to the recording. If you're looking at our product list and going, what should I order? Don't panic. Obviously, those first two products that Laurie talked about, everybody needs them to help them take control.
And I know
Right?
there's a 3-pack available. Well, I look at that and go, I would order an Optimum Coffee and 2 Max.
Yeah.
And I would have a Max by my bed and a Max in the kitchen cupboard by your supplements, and just start blasting yourself. You can't overuse the Max spray.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was down to Optimum Coffee Max spray in 24/7 because that was available. Right now, 24/7 isn't available. It will be again soon. But you don't have to find another product. You can just get somebody on because you know what? I think that too much is too much for people. When they're not feeling well, too many things is just too much. So if you keep it simple with a tub of Optimum and 2 bottles of Max and just get them going on that for a couple months, they're going to start to feel better. Their blood's going to start to flow, and they're going to want to continue on with adding other things then.
Yeah,
and inflammation is the same thing. Inflammation is caused from injury, if you were injured and it flames around it, or invaders, which are pathogens, which are viruses and bacteria. So if you've got inflammation in your body, you need to get the blood flowing well to the cells so that they can deal with it and be stronger to deal with the attack from the pathogens. And that will help calm it down too. So it's really, to me, that's ground floor.
So today's a ground floor conversation. And I think, we'll come on again with another Wellness Wednesday where we'll go to the next level. We'll go to we'll go up the ladder here with our products. But just remember that these 2 products are amazing. And I do have to give a big, huge plug to the Immune, because I've taken the Immune for 4 years. And I honestly have not had a cold or a flu for 4 years. And I'm truthful on that. And I worked in the school system for the first year of my journey with Valentis, and always the September to January, like somewhere in there, that cold and flu thing, the season that they call it. Well, I would get hit usually around Christmas time. And that year was my first year. The only thing I did differently was our first system, which was the coffee, the trim, and the Immune. And so I hardly ever miss a day with that Immune. And when I do, I really miss it. So, and I know for Sarah, our daughter Sarah with her Crohn's, she has had great benefit from the Optimum Coffee, the Max, and the Immune too. So, yeah.
The key ingredient in the Immune is aloe vera. And aloe vera is very, very healing for the body. So, if you can keep yourself clean, the cleaner you are, the less you get sick.
Yeah.
Because your immune system can actually work. All the hormones are communicating and everything's just working better.
Yeah. So I'm just going to stop our recording here.